We are the Lyric Professors. I am Professor A, and I am joined occasionally, when she can be bothered, by Professor Dogger, who you may see behind me and below me. And also, on the other side of the world, I am joined by Professor J. How are things on the other side of the world, Professor J?
It's wetty woo today, Professor A. Wetty woo.
Goodness.
So I'm not going to do a a guitar chord today.
Right. You're going to show us the back of a guitar. Oh no, you're going to
show a vinyl wrap. Now I don't remember if I've shown this before, but I wanted to just show that this guitar actually starts off black.
Oh, right.
But the previous owner, the paint got a bit, well, it's nitro.
Glycerine.
Well, my mind's gone blank, but the standard Gibson paint, that if it gets exposed to humidity or changes in temperature, it cracks. Now, some people like that. They love the sort of relicking effect. The previous owner didn't like it, so he stripped it back to this bare wood. And I found it terribly plain. So I went and bought this vinyl wrap. So this is a vinyl wrap like they put on the cars and all that jazz. So it's a kind of an easy, what's the right word, non-destructive way to improve your guitar. Just
I don't think I'd find it easy. I've never been able to do wallpapering or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's good from far. It's good from far from good. It looks impressive, but if you get up close, it is far from being perfect.
Little bubbles.
A little bit off. I mean, there's no bubbles.
Oh, that's pretty good.
But these edges are pretty rough. I did the headstock as well.
Oh yeah, nice.
Then I put on these little stickers. They're all sort of religious and quasi-religious symbols.
Oh right.
So we've got the Eye of Horus, or whatever it is. See that? Ooh, Eye of Horus.
That's actually the all-seeing eye. The Eye of Horus is the one on the front of Vision thing by Sisters of Mercy.
Oh, really?
That's the Illuminati symbol you've got.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, we've got yin and yang. We've got an ohm. Got a bit of everything.
All right.
There we go. That's today's guitar bit. All right.
Right.
So who are we talking about? It's a surprise.
It's just a surprise. It's not a big picture of them there or their name at the top right in red text or anything. But this was your choice, wasn't it, Professor?
It was my choice because this, after the last episode when we did the best song in the world, we are now going to go and do potentially the best group in the world.
No, we're not.
On this group, Professor A.
I like the music, but
Okay.
I've never ever been able to get the hang of Morrissey's singing voice. It's too warbly for me.
Oh, too warbly.
I do like some of their songs, and I actually like a couple of Morrissey solo ones as well. I quite like "Last of the Famous International Playboys."
Yep. Banger.
Yeah, but no, I think the music's great. Your Johnny Marr and your Andy, what's his name, on the things with strings.
You've done a lot of research.
I have.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, so they're one of those bands that stands out in the history of time as they're still very current. They still get a lot of radio play. They still have a lot of very passionate fans.
Can I say they may be very current still, but they are, in fact, I believe, the first defunct band that we have covered.
Well, this is what I was going to go on to, actually, is that they had such an amazing output. They've got all these songs that are still really present, but they were actually only active for 4 years, which, when you think about the amount of output, the radio play they get, the impact of them as a unit, and the fact that they were really only together for 4 years, from 1982 to 1986, I find a bit mind-blowing that they got all that done in that short period of time.
It's almost Beatles-esque in that.
That is true. So the Beatles were active from like 62 to 70, so they were 8 years.
So I think they were a lot more productive than the Smiths, but yeah, it's a similar sort of ballpark of output.
Well, about a album a year, about the same, pretty much.
I thought Beatles did more than one a year, but yeah.
Well, they started off in Hamburg. For those of you who heard our Beatles episode on a previous incarnation, they did a lot. So a lot of episodes on the Beatles. And they really changed. So anyway, let's back to the Smiths. So the Smiths are an English rock band. Would we call this rock?
I call it pop personally, but it's the guitar-y end of pop.
Jingly jangly.
Jingly jangle.
I would call it indie.
I suppose so, but I mean, indie just means signed to an independent label, really, doesn't it? It's not.
I mean, by definition, it means that, but I think it's more than that. It's kind of the vibe of the music. So for me, this is indie. Okay, they were formed in Manchester in 1982. They composed of singer Stephen Patrick Morrissey, guitarist Johnny Marr, bassist Andy Rourke, and drummer Mike Joyce. Morrissey and Marr were the songwriting partnership, and the Smiths are regarded as one of the most important acts to emerge from the 1980s British independent music.
That'll be indie then.
So yeah, they are indie. So yeah, I mean, the key thing about the Smiths for me is the marriage between Morrissey's lyrics, charisma, and singing style with Johnny Marr's jingly jangly guitaring. So it's guitar, bass, drum. It's kind of, they were a bit post-punk, but not synth pop.
Very post, yes. Yeah, I mean, when they started, pretty much every act in the charts was synth-based. Other than the massive bands, like, I mean, Queen was still knocking out guitar tracks in 1984.
Yeah.
Most of the new artists were synth-based. So yeah, they were a throwback, if you like.
Yeah. So they were together for this very brief time. So they formed in 82, broke up in 87 finally. And there were some extended public lawsuits over royalties, particularly to the non-Morrissey and Marr people in the band. You mentioned that you like some Morrissey songs.
Yeah.
I actually got into Morrissey before I got into the Smiths. So I was a really big Morrissey fan, and then kind of backtracked to the Smiths and actually prefer Morrissey's stuff.
Really?
The early stuff. Although, unfortunately, his behaviour in the last years has meant that I find it very painful to listen to him now.
He's turned into a massive whopper, isn't he?
He really is a massive one of them. Which is really strange considering where he came from in his background and what he was like at this time. I find shocking that he has turned so much. I mean, and remember that this is the early 80s. You know, famously, he was on Top of the Pops, which is the big, which was or is it still is? I guess it still is. The music show, the weekly music chart show in the UK, which featured bands, and Morrissey was on there with a shirt open and daffodils over his ears or on his hair and throwing flowers, so openly gay, vegan.
Yes, of course, they had an album called Meat is Murder.
Indeed. So, and they were incredibly prolific for a very short period of time. They kind of did their first session in the second half of 82. And they kind of met together for the second session, which was in December 82, recording session. And basically they stayed up smoking things and drinking things. And as I understand it, they pretty much wrote like 8 songs in an evening, which stay current, which is pretty amazing.
Really
good. So we'll dip more into the history of the Smiths as we go through this. Unless there's anything else you want to add to the Smiths before we get going?
Not really at the moment, I don't think.
Okay, so we'll dive into the first song that
Hello, Doug.
I have chosen. Professor Doggo wants to choose her song, which is This Charming Man, which is a 1983 song. It's actually a non-album single. So they had so much stuff generated and coming out all at the same time that this was on the album, which is called The Hatful of Hollow, which is kind of it's an everything else sort of album. You know, they had their singles. It was kind of B-sides and stuff that didn't make it to the album.
This was actually written specifically for the Peel sessions they did with DJ.
Right.
Peel.
Yes. So a number of their most famous songs were written for the Peel sessions. So John Peel was a radio, a enigmatic radio, very famous radio DJ who looked for undiscovered or new artists and brought them in to do sessions, and a lot of artists were discovered that way.
Yeah, not just British ones either. A lot of American bands I like have done Peel sessions as well, like Afghan Wigs, etc. So.
Absolutely. So this song, I mean, it charted, but not. So this was their second single. It reached number 25 in the UK. Didn't do great. I'm just going to dive straight into lyrics.
Oh, okay.
You ready?
Hold on, scroll down. Oh, there we go. Yes, lyrics.
Okay. Punctured bicycle on a hillside desolate. Will nature make a man of me yet? When in this charming car, this charming man. I'm going to carry on. Why pamper life's complexity when the leather runs smooth on the passenger seat? I would go out tonight, but I haven't got a stitch to wear. I'm going to stop there. So I think the thing about the way that Morrissey writes is that it's very non-traditional, you know, especially with what was out there at the time. It's he has this way of writing lyrics that are, you know, that don't follow what you would expect from a grammar. They're very poetic, I would say. Punctured bicycle on a hillside desolate.
Yes, so it's no surprise you chose this one, being a mad bicyclist.
No, this is my favourite song by the Smiths.
Yes, obviously the bicycle is not punctured; it's the tyre, I would suggest, which, as you say, is a tribute to Morrissey's non-traditional approach. That's right, Dogger. That's right. It's about the tyre. Will nature make a man of me? Yes, I presume he's on this hillside desolate. It's all very Wuthering Heights at the moment.
It is very Wuthering Heights, yes.
Yes. And then up pops a charming chap in a charming car, almost certainly a Jag. And a Jag. It's for those who've watched Top Gear or whatever. He presumably asks him to go out tonight with him. Asks Morrissey to go out with him. And Morrissey replies he can't because he hasn't got a stitch to wear. Although he's presumably wearing some clothes when he's cycling.
Yeah. So maybe let's throw in the next line if we're talking about that. Because the pre-chorus, which is listed as this man said, "It's gruesome that someone so handsome should care." Yes. And again, this structure is nice. So I think the second line is important, right? So but let's describe the story and then let's describe the subtext. So he's on his bike, he's got a puncture, and he's in the middle of nowhere. Somebody comes by with a car and offers him a lift, which would make his life very easy with the smooth leather of the passenger seat of this car.
The Jag.
Yeah. And then he talks this guy. Presumably, he takes the lift. He decides whether or not to take the lift.
Yes.
So that's why he's saying, why pamper life's complexity? He decides to take the lift. And then this guy asks him out, presumably, and he says he can't go out because he hasn't got anything to wear. And the man says, well, you shouldn't care because you're so beautiful. It's gruesome that someone so handsome should care. But we need to go right back to the second line.
Okay.
So, will nature make a man of me yet? So he's still questioning his sexuality.
Well, he is, but also I think it's a sort of a question of him saying that he's stuck on this desolate hillside, his bike's broken down, and will I make it out of this wilderness is also part of it.
Well, I think it's an allusion to to his sexual wildness.
Oh yes, but it's a dual meaning. We've mentioned several bands that we like have dual meanings in their lyrics. So there's definitely a physical situation of being stuck without a means of transport as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's debating. So will it make a man of me? So presumably that means being a straight relationship, and he is interested in a gay relationship. So let's go on to the chorus.
Excuse me. Professor Dogger, stop eating the wool. Up you get. Yes, should I just mention in his 2013 autobiography, Morrissey says that the line about the punctured bicycle in the wilderness desolate, or whatever it was, hillside desolate, relates to his appearance on Coronation Street as an extra in 1973.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Obviously, I read the entire autobiography, and what he said was, he was just meant to be an extra non-speaking role. Coronation Street is one of the two biggest soap operas in the UK. It's been going for 50 years, probably 50 years plus, maybe.
Or it's started in black and white. It's probably 75 years. 70
Wow.
years.
That's all I've done. So here he was just meant to appear as a young boy, an extra, and just before he hit the set, he said his shag pile mop top was shorn to the bone without his consultation. So they just shaved all his hair off and told him to cycle through a conventional industrial scene of the frozen north. He said that's where he came up with his punctured bicycle on Hillside Desolate.
Right. Okay. Okay. All right. Chorus. A jumped up pantry boy who never knew his place, he said, return the rings. He knows so much about those things. He knows so much about these things. What to wit does that refer?
Well, it's a quote from a movie, which
Mhm.
refers back to a book. The movie being 1972 movie Sleuth, starring, I can't remember, I didn't write it down. Tim Carrick? No, it's too early.
It's Laurence Olivier and Michael Caine.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
And that they mentioned this jumped up pantry boy, but it actually originally goes back to the Picture of Dorian Gray, I think, by Oscar Wilde.
Indeed.
Oscar Wilde being a massive favourite of Morrissey's. He idolised him to some extent as a fellow gay man with vast writing skills.
Yep.
And I can't remember the actual quote. I thought I had it, but I don't. The actual quote from Picture of Dorian Gray about the jumped up pantry boy is, a pantry boy anyway would be someone who was employed to work purely taking things from the pantry and bringing them to the cooks in the kitchen in a large house, be a servant basically. So it's a very subservient job. He's saying that this is a jumped up pantry boy, is the one who thinks he's above his station.
Yeah, and he was accused of stealing some things, so that's the turn the rings.
It is, but there's another theory that's propagated a lot online on genius.com.
We need to hear the second chorus for that.
Do we?
Come on to that. Yes, we do.
Okay.
Come on to that. Okay, so that's a nice movie reference, which crops up a lot. So then we get the pre-chorus again. I would go out tonight, but I'm going
to say something about that. That line is actually taken from A Taste of Honey by Sheila Delaney. And the protagonist says, I haven't got any clothes to wear for one thing, when she's asked why she doesn't go out dancing in the evenings. Morrissey apparently was very influenced by the play, and references it, or the film version of it, also in Reel Around the Fountain, This Night Has Opened My Eyes, and You've Got Everything Now. So.
Yeah. Well, again, they wrote all the songs in a very short period of time.
Yeah, sure.
So it was probably just, oh crap, I need some lyrics.
Yeah.
I've just watched this film, I've read this book. Chippy choppy, slippy sloppy. There we go. Yeah, so we've had the pre-chorus again. Then we have a hook.
A hook.
A hook, which is a na 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 na. This charming man, a couple of times. Then we go back to the chorus again. A jumped up punchy boy who never knew his place. He said, "Return the ring," singular.
Yes.
He knows so much about these things. End scene. So there's some talk about this, about return the ring, which again comes back to the second line of the song. Will nature make a man of me yet? And the implication here is that the protagonist is involved in is engaged in a straight relationship.
Which is strange though, because men don't really usually wear engagement rings in a
No, you're correct.
But or could even be a wedding ring.
Yeah, it could be a wedding ring. Yeah, maybe that's more appropriate. So he's in a straight relationship and has is thinking about a gay relationship, at which point he would need to return the ring. So there's the ring in that chorus and the rings, sure, which is from the movie in the other chorus. And that's it. It's really not that many words.
No. Oh, do you want to sting?
Oh, sting me, baby.
It is time for Professor J's word count.
Well, it's 67 unique words with 155 total words.
That isn't any, is it?
No, it is not. For someone who is feels very verbose when he sings, he actually isn't.
It's a very short song as well. Nearly all those songs are, except next one.
Yeah. Yeah. So just going back over this is very similar to a lot of Morrissey's songs. It has Morrissey's characteristically morose lyrics, which revolve around the recurrent Smith's themes of sexual ambiguity and lust. And of course, it has the classic jingle jangle, Marr, jingly jangly, schmingly schmangly. That's yeah. Oh yeah. So I found the thing that I was looking for. So Johnny Marr wrote the music to this charming man for the Peel session on the same night that he wrote Still Ill and Pretty Girls Make Graves. So bang, he whopped out 3 bangers in one evening. Yeah.
According to Johnny Marr, however, this was never one of the band's favourite songs. He said,
"Really,
it still isn't. I wince a bit when I hear it now. It only tells the shiny side of the story. It in no way epitomises what was good about the band in the long term. But God bless it, though, it seemed to catch on with a lot of people."
Yeah. I mean, Marr's thoughts about this song is obviously focused on the guitar. So the guitar riff is great.
Yeah, I like
he says that he's got this sort of thing about everybody thinks he's playing a Rickenbacker. Well, there is a kind of music video for this. I know it's a bit early for music video, but there is one that was kind of the Smiths didn't realize it was going to become the band didn't realize it was going to become a music video. They just had somebody come in and just film them black and white in a room, just playing the song through. And they were a bit annoyed that this was made into a music video. And in that video, Johnny Marr's playing a Rickenbacker.
Right.
But it's not really a Rickenbacker. It's mainly a Telecaster, a 54 Telly there. And he said that there are 15 guitar tracks on there.
Would you like the quote?
Yes, please.
He's told Select magazine in 1993, "I'd take this really loud Telecaster of mine, lay it on top of a Fender Twin Reverb with the vibrato on, and tune it to an open chord. then I'd drop a knife with a metal handle on it, hitting random strings. I used it on This Charming Man, buried beneath about 15 tracks of guitar. People thought the main guitar part was a Rickenbacker, but it's really a 54 telly. There are 3 tracks of acoustic, a backwards guitar with a really long reverb, and the effect of dropping knives on the guitar. That comes in at the end of the chorus. She just told us. Yes. So, there you go.
Yep. All Music's Ned Radjic noted that early Elvis would have approved of the music, wild of the words.
Don't know what that means.
Noel Gallagher from the Oasis said the first time he heard the track, he said this: the second I heard This Charming Man, everything made sense. Sound of that guitar intro was incredible. The lyrics are bleeping amazing too. People say Morrissey's a miserable bleep, but I knew straight away what he was on about. And then Liz Hoddard in a 2006 in The Independent said that This Charming Man is about age gap gay sex. Yeah.
Well, it's a classic.
It really is. It's a brilliant song. I wondered about this song. But do you know the song "Charmless Man" by Blur?
Blur, yes, which is actually about one of the Cray twins, I believe.
Well, I always wondered if this song was alluding, if the Blur song was alluding to this.
Oh, the title certainly is, but I'm not sure if the contents of the lyrics are.
No, it's not. It's about a pimp.
Oh, Reggie Cray.
Well, we can do that when we cover Blur.
Do you want one more fact about this?
Yes, please.
In Britain, there's a BBC radio show called Desert Island Discs, where various celebrities and not celebrities discuss with a presenter which items they'd like to take with them if they were stranded on a desert island, and one of these is a piece of music. In 2006, the leader of the Conservative Party and future British Prime Minister David Cameron was on this show, and he said he chose this as one of his 8 favourite songs. Both Marr and Morrissey were upset by this, and in 2010, Marr tweeted, "David Cameron, stop saying you like the Smiths. No, you don't. I forbid you to like it."
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not allowed, is it?
Well,
we can't have not nice people liking liking our music.
This man is the reason for Brexit, by the way, which is why he's not popular with certain people in this country. So yes. Anyway.
Good. Okay. Shall we move on to the next one that we have chosen? Or I have chosen.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Let's be realistic. Okay. So the next one I've chosen is the most successful B-side ever.
Oh, what about MacArthur Park?
Oh yeah, I'm conscious.
Don't have it both ways.
The second most successful B-side ever. So it's How Soon Is Now, which is a 1984 non-album single, and appears on the compilation album Hatful of Hollow, so not a real album. And this is the one that is always played. It's not really one of my favorites because
I remember having a discussion with you back in the dark ages when we were at university, and you were talking about how you loved the Smiths, and I said, "Well, I quite like How Soon Is Now." And you said, "Well, I do."
It's not a Smith song.
No,
and we'll come into that. It's the words are, the music isn't really. Anyway, we'll come into that. Okay. Diving in. I am the son and the heir of a shyness that is criminally vulgar. I am the son and heir of nothing in particular.
Yes, this is adapted from a line in George Eliot's novel Middlemarch, which I had the great pleasure of reading at university.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it says, "To be born the son of a Middlemarch manufacturer and inevitable heir to nothing in particular."
Yeah. So it's very much on the case for Morrissey's intellectual or pseudo-intellectual, I think intellectual approach. And again, I just like the way it's written. It's just in terms of the way that it's paced with the lyrics, and it's not woo woo baby. going to rock you all night long. It's
No, it's not as good as the Cult, is it? Yeah, and also, of course, you got the homophones in the first line: sun, the air. So yeah, the big yellow wobbly thing in the sky and stuff we breathe. So that would be sort of everything and nothing, as well as the quote from
Yeah.
Middlemarch.
Very true. Okay, more words. You shut your mouth. How can you say I go about things the wrong way? I'm human and I need to be loved just like everybody else does.
Yeah, and this whole song seems to be about Morrissey being lonely and being hampered by his shyness, being hampered in trying to remedy that by his shyness.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, music journalist John Savage commented that the song's lyrics were evocative of the contemporary Manchester gay club culture.
Can't be, because if everyone was in that culture was too shy to go out and meet someone, there wouldn't have been a culture.
You tell John Savage that. Okay. Then we have a repetition of the first part.
Yep.
And then we have a repetition of the second part. So next piece, there is a club if you'd like to go. You could meet somebody who really loves you. So you go and you stand on your own, you leave on your own, and you go home and you cry and you want to die. I mean, for me, that is extremely powerful, encapsulating shyness, especially of someone in their earlier years. You know, I think it's amazing. I think it's incredibly well, powerfully written. And just again, you go on your own, you stand on, you leave on your own. This very staccato rhythm of it, I think, is amazingly well written and encapsulates teenage angst or early adult angst.
Yeah, well, I think people of any age can feel lonely and be shy.
Absolutely.
I always hated nightclubs with a vengeance. I only ever went because mates were going. The idea of going to a nightclub hoping to find someone, when you can't even hear yourself think, let alone have a conversation with anyone. God, I'm old.
You're there for dancing.
Real men don't do that.
All right,
Toxic
Morrissey,
masculinity.
new Morrissey, not old Morrissey.
Yes.
Okay. More lyrics. When you say it's going to happen now, when exactly do you mean? See, I've already waited too long and all my hope is gone.
Yeah.
That's it. There's a repetition of the sort of reprise.
Yeah, not much in it really, and yet it's 7 odd minutes long.
Oh. Let's do a word count while we're talking about that.
Oh.
It is time for Professor J's word count.
Okay, so it's 75 unique words and 202 in total. I mean, there's a lot of repetition. It's surprisingly more than the previous song, which I get surprised by. But
it's twice as long.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we have to talk about the music for this one because that's what made it stuck. So it starts with this, this. Well, it's a tremolo effect, right? So it's a guitar and a. And did you know the difference? You mentioned vibrato on the previous song. Do you understand the difference between a vibrato and tremolo?
No, I do not.
So vibrato changes the pitch, and tremolo changes the volume. So if somebody calls
a tremolo arm, I've heard, yes, which it won't be.
It's not a tremolo. Yeah.
It's a whammy bar.
So it's a whammy McDammy. So yeah. So this and there's sort of debate about how this song was actually recorded and engineered in the studio.
Well, that opening riff was ripped off anyway. It's from the Rolling Stones cover of Bo Diddley's song "I Need You, Baby" Mona.
He does talk a lot about Bo Diddley's particularly syncopated rhythm in the way that he plays, and the fact that Johnny Marr was kind of, I don't know if he idolized him, but he thought he was that Bo Diddley, because Bo Diddley's got that shuffle named after him, right? This, and he thought it was amazing that somebody was such a, not maybe virtuoso guitar player, but he just was so special with the rhythm that he had, that he had his own rhythm named after him. He thought that was amazing. So yeah, it does come from that. But in terms of how they recorded it, they had so it says, I put the rhythm track on an Epiphone Casino through a Fender Twin reverb without vibrato. Then we played the track back through 4 old Twins. That's more Fender Twins. They're big amps, a bit like that one that you can't see. One on each side. We had to keep all the amps vibrating in time to the track and each other. So we had to keep stopping and starting the track, recording it in 10-second bursts. Then we did it in 3 passes through a harmonizer set to some weird interval, like a sixth. And there was a different harmonization for each pass. For the line-in harmonics, I retuned the guitar so that I could play it all at the 12th fret with natural harmonics, and it's doubled several times.
Wow.
So you can kind of repeat it with a, I mean, when he plays it live, he just plays it with a tremolo, and you kind of get an approximation of it. But they spent a long time pulling their hair out in the studio, engineering this classic sound, which is the sound that most people associate with the Smiths. That's why I've chosen this one, and that I don't associate with the Smiths.
True, yeah. Bassist Andy Rourke called the song the bane of the Smiths' live career.
Yeah.
So yeah, very difficult.
It's difficult to play.
Nobody needs any of that. No difficulty.
Yeah. So How Soon As Now is a melancholic anthem for those who feel misunderstood and unseen. It speaks to the universal desire for human connection and the pain that comes with longing for something that seems just out of reach. The song acknowledges the struggles we face in navigating our own shyness, vulnerabilities, and the unspoken yearning for love. The bridge of the song provides a glimmer of hope, but it quickly just juxtaposes this with a feeling of going home alone. I mean, I think the lyrics are great. You know, they really jump out.
I like the music too, but I can understand that you don't, because you don't think it's Smithsy. That's all.
I don't not like the music. That's not what I've said. It's just doesn't feel Smithsy to me. It's not that I don't like it. It just feels very different to everything else from the Smiths. It's a bit like, this is topical for me right now, watching the TV series House. Have you seen the TV series House?
I love House. I've watched it, the whole thing, many times.
I cannot abide it because I can't hear Hugh Laurie talking like that. It just seems so out of place for me.
He's very good with his accents. He does occasionally use his natural accent in it as well, when he's mocking an English person, which is quite
yeah, I find it.
Oh, it's a great show. You should try to get over the voice thing.
No, I don't care. All right, should we go for our third track for today?
No, let's talk about cover versions of House.
Oh, okay. Oh, hit me.
So, do you remember the song by a band called Soho called Hippie Chick?
I remember Hippie Chick. I didn't remember the band name.
Yeah, I think it was 2.
They sampled the intro, right?
Yeah, sampled the intro, and apparently Morrissey and Marr received 25% of the royalties for that song in perpetuity. I'm not sure why Morrissey gets any. His lyrics weren't used at all.
Well, he's listed as a songwriter.
Russian duo Tattoo covered this song in 2002. Marr slammed it, saying it was silly, and Morrissey called it magnificent. I haven't actually heard that. I need to look it up.
We did a Tattoo cover one time, didn't we, Professor A?
I have. You didn't contribute it to it at all.
I thought we did it as a duo.
I've got my weird synth version, which you can't find a decent version of. Yes. And then there's the band Love Spit Love, which was formed by the Psychedelic Furs members Richard and Tim Butler, who did a version of this, which I actually prefer to the Smiths version. There you go. Which was the title track to the movie from 1996 called The Craft, about a coven of teenage witches. Good movie. And in 1998, the same cover version was used as the theme song to the TV series Charmed, which is about a coven of teenage witches.
Charmed?
Yes.
Banger series. Banger.
It also appears, that cover version appears in the movies The Wedding Singer and Closer. So it's probably more widespread than the original.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on this one? Ooh, Dogger.
No, Dogger doesn't have anything else to say about this one. She's saying on to the next one, Professor J.
Okay. Right. Third and final one for today. Gone for a long one. I've gone for a long one.
Not very long.
Well, it's longer than the other one. Let's say that. So we have chosen a Rubber Ring, which is a 1985 song. Oh, it's a B-side. It's from the album The World Won't Listen, and it's the B-side to The Boy with a Thorn in His Side.
One of the B-sides.
Sorry?
One of the B-sides. Because it
Two B-sides to a single?
segues into another song on that release.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Right. Dive into lyrics. A sad fact widely known, the most impassionate song to a lonely soul is so easily outgrown. But don't forget the songs that made you smile and the songs that made you cry. When you lay in awe on the bedroom floor and said, "Oh, oh, smother me, mother." And then I want to do the the next bit, which is the "Oh, la da da day, la da da day. Oh, na 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 na, la di di day, la di day, la da da day dee dee, la di dee day dee." That's in the word count.
Oh, right.
That's important for the word count.
That's a genius lyricist right there, Leslie.
Yeah. So we are setting the scene. What scene are we setting?
Well, he's talking about, it's basically a love song to music.
The what?
Music! Yes, he is talking about songs that get you through life, but then you might outgrow. But you need to remember them. How important they were in your life. They made you happy. They made you cry because you resonate with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you lay on the bedroom floor and said, "Oh, oh, smother me, mother," which is a reference to a song by the Supremes.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that, and I want to add something on top of that, which is that this is a song about people who have risen above their station and they have forgotten this whole period of
Right.
being a lonely soul and wanting
Yeah.
to lay in or on the bedroom floor listening to music, and now they're some suited, jumped up something.
Absolutely.
That's what I think.
Yes.
Okay, more words. The passing of time and all of its crimes is making me sad again. But don't forget the songs that made you cry and the songs that saved your life. Yes, you're older now and you're a clever swine, but they were the only ones who ever stood by you.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Don't forget the things that got you through.
But I think it's more than that. I think he's saying he's singing this to somebody, let's say one of his peers who was similar to him at a young age, and now he's this person he's singing to is older and a clever swine, and they have forgotten their roots. So I think it's that's the critical part of this song.
Okay.
Do you agree?
Sure, why not? Absolutely. Makes sense.
Right, more of them, their words. Passing of time leaves empty lives waiting to be filled. I'm here with the cause. I'm holding the torch in the corner of your room. Can you hear me? When you're dancing and laughing and finally living, hear my voice in your head and think of me kindly. And we've got some ooladi doody, doody, laddy day, all that jazz.
Yeah, it's all the same, really, isn't it?
It is absolutely so. You know, time has passed, and here he is hiding in his room. Can you hear me? Even though this person is finally living, just remember your roots. Remember where you came from, and don't be such an asshole. I think that's the song. Remember your roots. Don't be an asshole. If only Morrissey could hear this song now.
Well, yes, it's true. Call him up and play it to him a few times a day. Yeah, and then we've got some voices interspersed with it.
Well, hang on. There's a "Do you love me like you used to?" and then some lilies, and then the voices. I'll do the voices. So clearly this is not sung, this is recording. We'll come into that shortly, I imagine. You're clever. Everybody's clever nowadays. And it's in a very sort of what I'm looking for, a flat voice. It's
Yes.
spoken word. You are sleeping, you do not want to believe. Repeated several times. So it's interesting that they put in this this thing at the end. In this version of the lyrics that I have here, it does not mention the phrase, the title of the song, "The Rubber Ring." Does it in your version of the song?
No, version of it.
So another version of the lyrics, and this is why I was insistent to do the la-di-day, la-di-doo-doos. Another version of the lyrics interpreted that as "rubber ring," and him singing "rubber ring, the rubber ring, rubber ring," interpreted as that, because otherwise it doesn't mention it. So what is a rubber ring?
Well, I think it's got two meanings in this case.
Oh, shock!
Yeah, there's a fence sausage in it. Yeah, it's obviously something that you might use to save someone who is drowning. That's one meaning. I think the other meaning is a record, which is basically a rubber ring.
Yeah,
I think
exactly. So yeah, so that's it. So it's the rubber ring being the record is something that, you know, a lot of us, myself, you make your own decision, use music to escape from, and you use it as a crutch or a solace or an escape. I don't know, but it's very important to my life. So that's one version of the rubber ring. And then, like you said, a second meaning, and I think it is a not very well veiled attack on certain people. Don't know who those certain people are, but you know, people who've grown up with him, who have forgotten their roots and become assholes. Yeah. There we go. So do we want to talk about these voices?
Well, it's two different sets of voices, and the "you're clever, everybody's clever nowadays," and then the "you are sleeping, you don't want to believe." They're from different sources.
Okay. Well, you go for the first one, and I'll do the second one.
The "you're clever, everybody's clever nowadays" is a quote from a performance, no idea what specific one, of Oscar Wilde again's play "The Importance of Being Earnest." I'm sick to death of cleverness. Everybody is clever nowadays. You can't go anywhere without meeting clever people.
Exactly. So consistent.
Yes.
Even though this is a couple of years later, it's not recording in the same section.
Oh, sure.
The previous songs.
No, he's banged on about how much he loves Oscar Wilde a lot.
And who wouldn't?
Yes.
We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. So yeah, so then we have this really monochromatic, but very flat way of speaking. You are sleeping. You not once. So this is derived from the work of the late Latvian writer and parapsychologist Konstantin Rodiv. Konstantin was best known for his research into electric voice phenomenon, EVP. What do we know about this, Professor A?
It is allegedly the voices of dead people coming in over certain frequencies of radio waves, etc., powered by electromagnetic force.
Yeah. Pretty,
So, your Ghost Adventures fans and whatever should be listening to the Smiths.
Exactly. So yeah. So I don't know where he actually recorded this. Let's go into Rodiv. So he taught at Uppsala University in Sweden, and he made over 100,000 recordings, which he described as being communications with discarnate people. I don't think that means he didn't have carnal knowledge of them.
I hope he didn't with all of them.
He'd been a busy boy.
Yeah.
100,000 recordings. So some of these recordings were conducted in an RF screened laboratory and contained words that Rodiv said were identifiable. He invited listeners to hear and interpret them, and he believed that the clarity of the voices heard in his recordings implies that they could not be readily explained by normal means. He published his first book, Breakthrough, an amazing experiment in electronic communication with the dead, in 1968.
Yes.
So this original recording is from a 1971 record, which accompanied said book and was reissued as a flexi disc in the 1980s, free with the Unexplained magazine.
Oh, I've got a few copies of that somewhere.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I love that stuff.
Have you got any flexi discs?
No,
I've
no.
got a flexi disc.
Oh, I've got flexi discs of other things. I don't have any flexi discs that came with that magazine.
But also, you get that very sort of lo-fi, grainy vinyl sound with this.
Yeah, you do, but it's
speakers.
worth saying that this "You Are Sleeping, You Do Not Want to Believe" from the Smith song is not the actual EVP, because the actual EVP was in French, I think, no, Swedish and German.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was supposed to be the words of Dr. Gerhard Frey from Beyond the Grave. He was another parapsychologist from Switzerland. Apparently, his words came over in Swedish and German, and that the English is just a translation, so it's not really a ghost saying it. Sorry.
Wheatbra and Jaganau. Is that what this is?
Quite possibly. I wouldn't know.
I need to bleep one then.
Don't tell YouTube; they won't be able to speak that language.
That's true. Yeah. So, I mean, I love this song because it felt very different at the time to go through. Just the way it was played, the sort of interesting guitaring.
Yeah.
And then having the voices at the end. I think it's a lot more common now than it was in.
Oh, we do it all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
easier, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something else to do. Yeah, I really like this one. I thought the music was great. I thought Morrissey's yodeling was a bit much, but that's just his voice.
It wasn't yodeling. He was either singing Dudley Day or he was singing Rubber Ring.
Yeah.
The title of the song.
Yeah.
How many songs do you know that don't feature the title in the words, in the lyrics?
Well, I can't give you an exact number, but there's certainly plenty of them around.
Should do a special episode
Maybe
on
we
that.
should. We should also just mention that this one in "You Are Sleeping, You Don't Want to Believe" it is part of a segue into the next song, "Sleep," which apparently is about death. So EVP fits quite nicely.
Indeed. Yes, I never thought of that.
No, I really like this one. I have to say, I hadn't heard it before you picked it, so excellent.
All right, okay. Yeah, one of my favourites. Really like it. Anything else to say on this?
I have some notes, I think. Not many on this one, to be fair.
Yeah, so, well, I'll just repeat what I've said before, but from a quote that I don't have the origin of it. Rubber Ring is a humbling Smith's experience, as the addressee would apparently be someone who has grown so successful or wise in their own eyes they had forgotten their sentimental roots. Morrissey's goal is to remind them, in his signature brash way, of their earlier, more vulnerable and lonelier days via harping on the songs that held them down back then.
Yeah. No, I don't actually have any. The only other thing I can add is that in his 2015 Reddit AMA interview, Gallagher, who we've mentioned before, said this was one of his favourites.
Right. He's a good Manchester boy, right?
Yeah.
Are you ready for a quiz?
Oh, let's! I know everything about the Smiths.
Yeah. So I will go through the 15 questions first, and then I'll come back for answers. Right. No, give me the answers as we go along. This is a long one.
Okay.
So it's a multi-choice. I will be giving you the suggestions. Morrissey, throughout the career of the Smiths, was known for all of the following except despising dance music, being a devout vegetarian, being celibate, never drinking any alcohol. Which one did he not do? Dance music, vegetarian, celibate, alcohol.
I know he said he was celibate later in life. Was he then?
It's a red herring.
Drinking alcohol.
Correct. It's an epic start. Well done. Oh. I would write a score if I had a pen that worked. One. Question 2. Which former band member won a lawsuit against Morrissey and Johnny Marr for over £1 million? Was it?
Well, there's two options.
You're going to like this. You're like, you're going to listen to the responses. Andy Rourke, Mike Joyce, Robert Smith, or David Bowie?
I think it was Andy Rourke. It might be the other one.
It was the other one.
Dear.
It was Mike Joyce. What was Morrissey's first solo album? Was it Maladjusted? Was it Boner Drag? Was it Viva Hate? Or Vauxhall and I?
Vauxhall and I was later. Viva Drag? Boner Drag.
Almost. It was Viva Hate. Okay. You're going to like this one, I promise. Which of Morrissey's arch rivals was quoted as saying, "If Morrissey doesn't eat meat, then I'll eat meat because I hate Morrissey"? Was it Robert Smith, Andy Rourke, Johnny Rogan, or Mike Joyce?
Johnny Rogan, because I don't know who he is.
No, it was Fat Bob. It was Robert Smith.
Yeah. Well, that's how he got fat, eating all the meat Morrissey.
For which song was Morrissey's house subjected to a police search? Margaret on the Guillotine, or Panic, or Girlfriend in a Coma, or Hand in Glove?
I'd say Girlfriend in a Coma. They want to see if he got someone, a coma victim, hanging around his house.
Nope, it was Margaret on the Guillotine.
Don't know that one.
About Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, I see.
When was the Smiths' first gig? Was it October the 4th, 1982? Was it October the 4th, 1983? Was it November the 6th, 1982? Was it November the 6th, 1983?
October 83.
No, it was October 82. We'd already had a couple of charts.
Oh, I don't know. I can't do that.
Morrissey describes his teenage years as chaotic, depressing, happy enough, or peaceful.
Depressing.
Correct. Yay. We're back in the room. This one you should be able to get. Who was the guitarist for the Smiths? Johnny Marr, Mike Joyce, Andy Rourke, or Morrissey?
Johnny.
Very good. What things was Morrissey famous for carrying around on stage and throwing into the crowd during the early part of the Smiths' career? Was it candies? Was it plastic pool toys? Was it old socks? Or was it flowers?
It was flowers.
Very good. You know that Morrissey was an author?
I think I'd heard that.
So, what was the name of the book Morrissey wrote about James Dean? Was it James Dean, Face of Troubled Youth? Was it James Dean is Not Dead? Was it James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause, or James Dean Forevermore?
The first one.
It was Is Not Dead. Right. Which band's fan club was Morrissey president of at the age of 18? The options are the Sex Pistols, the Buzzcocks, the New York Dolls, or the Ramones.
New York Dolls.
Yes. Well done. Where did the members of the Smiths grow up? It's New York, Manchester, London, or Los Angeles.
Manchester.
Correct. Which of these shows has Morrissey never been involved with in any way, shape, or form? Saturday Night Live, Bill Nye the Science Guy, The Daily Show, The Tonight Show.
Two of those are American. Tonight Show.
That was The Daily Show. How old was Morrissey when his parents were divorced? 18, 17, 19, 15.
15.
17.
Ah!
What is the name of Johnny Marr's wife? Charlotte, May, Susan, Angie.
Angie.
Yes.
Ah.
Well done. That just sneaked you over 50%.
Oh.
Pretty good. Which is pretty good because they're multi-choice.
Yeah.
So your average should be. There we go.
About as well as I will
Right.
get my degrees. That's right.
Well, it's a pass, right? So I think that's it for today. We will be back with more Smiths next time.
Yes, looking forward to it. We need to decide how many tracks we do. Yes.
We certainly do.
Yes. So, hope you enjoyed that. We certainly did. Professor Dogger at least performed a little bit today.
She did.
Much better than last time.
It was animated for quite a bit of it.
So anyway, try and listen to some Smiths, I guess. And please give us a like and give us a subscribe, and we will see you soon. Farewell.
Jingle jangle.